Hello my friends and welcome to the video. Today we're going to be checking out a brand new plugin from the guys over at Baby Audio, which has recently just been released, and this is called Super VHS. Now, with the name, it is easy to get confused with it, thinking that this is going to be some kind of plugin that emulates a VHS tape player in some crazy way, but it's actually more so a nod to the 80s and a specific era in time. And the idea behind this plugin is to try and capture some of that magic that you would have heard in the 80s, so that lo-fi, pitch wobbly, washy sound. And the guys have done a pretty decent job with this plugin in doing so. So first, let's get ourselves familiar with the interface. Then I will play you through some of this lovely cheesy synthy track I've made, and then we'll start playing with Super VHS and see what different sounds we can get. So first, let's familiarize ourselves with the interface. Overall, there are 8 different controls you can use and 6 individual effects. So the basic ones are your mix, so you can blend between the signal of Super VHS, and you can also control the outputs, which is nice. There's no auto gain, but really for a plugin like this, you don't really need it. Now, moving on to the effects controls, starting with this knob here, we have heat, and heat is an analog tape saturator, and you can get some really nice crunchy saturated sounds out of this. Down here, this knob is called wash. I'm sure there's a joke in there somewhere. And the wash knob is basically a reverb, or what they call a bad hall reverb, which sounds really nice. Moving on to the right, we have the drift knob, and this is basically a pitch fluctuation LFO. So to get that warbly sound, you can increase the amount. But where this really starts to get interesting is when you use automation to automate some changes with the drift. Down to the bottom left, we have the static slider. Now, what this does is it just creates static noise, and it's a static noise synthesizer. So the more you increase it, the more of it you will hear. To the bottom right, we have the shape slider. And what the shape slider does is reduce the sample rate. So it's, gives you that lo-fi, bit crushy kind of sound. Now, internally under the hood, there are things going on, but before I talk about that, you might have noticed this button in the middle here called Magic. And what this does is apply a chorus type of effect, which widens the stereo field and gives you quite an interesting sound to the overall process. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is take a listen to a part of the track. So I'm going to create a loop up here in Cubase, and then we will come back and use Super VHS on some of the different synth patches and see what different flavors we can get. You get the idea. So first, let's start by opening up the mixer, and there's a particular line I want to have a look at with Synth 3 I've got here. So I'm just going to create a little loop like that. Open the mixer back up, and let's open up Super VHS. Now, something to bear in mind actually before we go any further with it is when you enable Super VHS on a track, there is an inbuilt EQ limiter and bit crusher under the hood with this plugin, but what you'll find is that the EQ will slightly roll off some of the high end and warm up the sound ever so slightly. So it's just something to bear in mind for when you're mixing. It's very subtle. You might not notice it if you're on headphones, but if you've got some monitor speakers, you should probably definitely notice it. So I'm going to turn it off, play it. It's very slight, it's very subtle, but it warms up the sound. So first, let's start by adding some heat and get some of that saturation on the go, because at the moment this synth sounds a little bit boring. Oh, that's nice. Right there, that's nice. But let's see how much we can push it. Wow, you can get really dirty with this thing. Even that sounds pretty cool. I'm happy with it around here somewhere. So we'll stick with that. Next, let's take a look at the wash and get some of that reverb on the go, or bad hall reverb they call it. Oh wow, that's nice. It's kind of like a hole and a spring reverb mix. It's really cool. It's got a nice thing to it. I like it. Maybe a little bit less. Not there. Now let's take a look at adding some of that warble and pitch shifting with the drift. That's nice there. But we'll push it. Oh wow. That's cool. Now, one thing to note with the drift dial is that if you've ever heard really cheesy 80s pop music and there's like that chord they play on a synth and then it's got a very distinct warble sound to it, you can achieve that sound with this really easily. So if I just take this knob and just, you know, wobble it around, everything sounds so dodgy today. You'll hear what I mean. So maybe not so much on this synth line, but I'll do it on a lead pad and you'll hear more so what I mean. But if you use automation on the drift dial, you can get some really creative, interesting things happening. So let's just move it back to where I thought it sounded pretty cool, which is around here. And let's have a look at doing some bit reduction to it. So the thing to note with this slider is it's not a continually consistent slider, it's the steps this goes along in. Oh, cool. Oh. Wow, you can really mess the sound up with this. Interesting one you could use automation for. I've got some ideas for that one. But I like step, the first step here, so I'm going to leave it on there. Now let's engage the magic button and see how the chorus affects the sound and also widens the signal. For some things, it probably won't work great on, but for other things, this could work really nice on as well. So let's have a listen. Oh wow, it really does open it up. Without it? With it. So that's bypassing the plugin. Interesting. Let's see what that sounds like in the mix. I might turn the magic off though, because it might be too wide and I want it to be more centered. Actually, that sounds cool. I actually like that. That sounds cool. Okay, so let's have a look at another synth. You can hear more so what I mean about the EQ when you engage it on this synth. I like it around there. One thing I'm actually going to do is turn the effects off on this synth. So we have reverb on the go, we have delay on the go, we don't have chorus phase. That's okay. All right. Also with the drift as well, it rolls off some of that high end you'll hear. Don't think we really need drift on this synth. Quite like it just like that. That sounds nice. With the magic engaged. Bypassed. Definitely a lot more interesting with it on. I really like the sound of it on there. Okay, let's find something else. There's a pad here. Let's see what this sounds like. Dirty it up. Oh, give it some bit reduction. There's a difference in volume there. I like how dirty that is. That kind of works, you know, even though it sounds like really messed up there. I could probably go with that one. I like what it's doing. That's cool. Okay, so what else can we add it on? This one here. Sounds better already with the heat on. Not too much wash. That's cool. A little bit of drift. I like that. That's interesting. Next thing I want to look at is this here, so I'm going to make a loop out of this. Would help if I actually looped it better. There we go. That's, you know what I was talking about earlier, about that classic wobble sound? That's what I'm talking about. That sounds awesome. That's really flavored it up. I like it, I like it, I like it, I like it. Let's put that back into the mix and just attenuate the volume a little. Very interesting. And what else have we got here? We've got an organ sound somewhere. Where's that? Let's go back over here. Let's make a loop. Now this is going to a reverb patch. So what I need to do is... Yeah, it's on pre-fader. Super VHS on. So the reason why I put it on pre-fader is because I don't want Super VHS. The signal goes like this. It goes through the channel, through Super VHS, and then out of the channel to the effects sound with the reverb on. But I don't want Super VHS to be a part of the signal chain here. So I just want the signal to be split and sent to the reverb before it hits the plugin chain. So otherwise, I'm just sending, you know, this channel directly into a reverb with the crush and more reverb on. It might sound good, but I would prefer to blend them together like I'm doing now. Cool. I like it. All right, let's see what that sounds like. I love how it's gradually starting to get more of a lo-fi sound to it by, you know, using lots of these plugins. So let's have a listen to what Super VHS would sound like on the master bus. I have already got some stuff going on the master bus here. We have a bit of SSL glue comp. We have Sonable smart comp to even out the spectrum. And then we have a little bit of tape from Softtube. Might turn this off actually. Let's just bypass that. See how I'm using it to warm up the sound, but I just want to, out of curiosity, see if I can warm up the sound in a similar way with Super VHS here. So let's enable it. Now you can hear it sounds a little bit darker already. Let's push some of this. Wow, you could do some interesting stuff with this. I wouldn't necessarily use it on the master bus for certain things, but you could get some interesting things like this. You can really mangle it. A lot of fun, this plugin. I do like it. All right, so on the master bus, maybe not. Depends if you want to maybe send something back in time that far. I'm just going to leave the tape on for this instance. I think with the plugin, just off the top of my head from using it, what would be nice is if you have control over the roll-off for the EQ. So if there's like a little button down here you could press to expand it so you could see the EQ curve that they're using and maybe have a little bit of control over it. That would be cool. But again, with it rolling off, it's kind of sending it a little bit into that era where it's a bit more warmer and where things I don't think were as, open in terms of the high end on there. So that's probably why they've gone for that. But it'd be nice to have a little bit of control over that, I feel. But I'm loving what this sounds like on these synths, so let's just bypass them. I mean, it sounds so boring without them on. Way more interesting. Without. With. Beautiful. Really give them a flavor. I really like what this plugin does. Now, I would show you the automation on the drift, but I feel that there are some videos that are already on YouTube that show this, and there's no need for me really to just regurgitate that. Just go look at some of the other videos that are on Super VHS so you can get an informed opinion about the product. So what are my final thoughts on Super VHS? I love the sound of this plugin. In fact, when I tried the demo out, I bought it straight away. And the guys were like, we could have sent it to you. And I was like, no, it's fine. I want to buy it and support you. I love how simple the controls are to use. They really are very straightforward and everything's here. The interface is clean and easy to read. There's, no wasted space really. So that's another bonus. And the other thing is, the price. It's very, very reasonable price. At the moment, it's at $29 for the introductory, and then it goes up to, I believe, $49. Now, when you compare that to other products on the market that do a similar thing, I think it's very, very reasonable, in fact, for the plugin. Now, let's talk about the things that slightly bother me with Super VHS. The main thing that bothers me is the lack of control over the high pass and low pass filters. When you engage the plugin, it does tend to roll things off and make them warmer, and I can understand that because it's trying to get the sound in a specific ballpark, for that era. But sometimes on certain things, I don't really want it to roll off some of the high ends, and it tends to roll off a little bit too much for certain things. Not everything, just certain things. And being able to have that control over it would be amazing, even if it was a slider or a couple of buttons to increase the amount of low pass and high pass. The only other thing that I could think of that might get some emails about changing is the shape tool, because this works as steps between the different stages. I could see a lot of people saying that they would prefer this if it was like a smooth slider like this, and that the transitions between each of the stages was smoother, so you could gradually do it. I don't know how the hell you would go about doing that, but that would open up a few doors for creative possibilities as well. So maybe that is something to consider. In terms of everything else, I'm happy with it. I don't mind that the chorus is baked in and that you don't really have control over it. I think they've modeled this on something very specific, and I really like the sound of the chorus. In fact, I think it just works. It just works. But again, the whole idea with this plugin is simplicity and getting a real cool sound quickly that captures the spirit of the 80s. And I think they've achieved that with this. Some of the other plugins that this may get compared to, for example, one of them, which I own, is XLN Audio's RC20 Retro Color. If you were going to compare it to that, they're both different things. RC20 has a lot of different sounds you can get out of it, and a lot more control over the different functions and features of each of the sound modules. But the thing is, it's a lot more expensive. That is €80. And when you look at Super VHS, it's not trying to cater for loads of different sounds and errors. It's just focusing on one thing, and it does it really well, and it's really affordable. So thank you for watching. Be sure to check out the other video I did on iHeart New York, which is another product by Baby Audio. And I'll see you in the next video.